Hello and fuck cape shit. Welcome to another episode of Shittywebcomics Weekly, brought to you by our subscribe star backers. Check the link below to get access to our real videos. Not this shit that we're fucking dumping on YouTube like we don't care. And speaking of which, this one's not even going to be necessarily about a webcomic. I mean, Shitty Webcomics originally never really was about fucking webcomics. It was just like we would cover some webcomics that we didn't like, and then we would cover everything else. In fact, we would cover comics that we did like back then. It was always a lot of things. But today, I'm just going to be reading through some of a review of a book. It's on this site called Hobby Lark and book review, Rescue Run by John Arroz. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's Star Realms deck building game, space adventure romp with intrigue and romance. First novel set in the Star Realms. What is Star Realms? What the fuck is Star Realms?
It's some video game apparently, and I've played a lot of video games. I've never even fucking heard of this.
Nice cover, I guess. But yeah, Rescue Run by
Got
John
a pretty
Arroz.
decent cover. She's got nice cans.
But also it's like fucking techno guns, very kind of reminiscent. The guns, of course, reminiscent of fucking Mass Effect, but with extra shit on them, of course. Mass Effect's always got a fucking... Mass Effect actually kind of stripped down some of the techno gun designs to be like, well, they're compactable, you see, so they expand as you grab them off the thing. Whereas most other people who design future techno guns just put a bunch of extra shit on them. Anyways, I'm not going to judge that or the cover.
The two guys have weird-looking guns.
Yeah, they have kind of goofy, weird-looking armor too, I suppose. I don't know if they're wearing full face masks or helmets, or is that their face? But whatever, that doesn't matter. And just skipping down to the part, what Arroz got right. Now, let me look at the date, though. April 23rd, 2020. So this was just last year. Oh, wait, no, this was like 2 years ago. I keep thinking of 2020 as being like, that was like a couple months ago, right?
No. Already feel 40 years ago. Feel old yet?
Feel old yet. But this was also after a lot of the Cape cuckery. I wonder, is this somebody that John Arroz knew, and he was like, hey, can you do, or did he pester them into fucking trying to write this review just like he tried to pester us into doing them? He basically he didn't pester us necessarily. He gave us flying sparks and was clearly expecting us to give a review the same way we did for like the Black Ops comics and that kind of stuff, or even My Hero Academia, or the Walmart books, My Hero Macadamia, Common America, that kind of... I don't even know if Common America was out when we did the review of Flying Sparks. But I remember you read Flying Sparks, and I was like, oh, okay. And we were just willing to be like, well, all right. Be like, hey, we have a friend in the industry, I guess. But I also knew that he wasn't really either. And I read it, and I was like, this is... Like, it was right after we did the review of Lone Star, which started off in the exact same way. And Lone Star really sucked, but it was kind of funny how stupid it was. Whereas Flying Sparks was just the more generic version of that, where it didn't even
it fucked up things less, but as a result, it was more boring.
Yeah, it was kind of the dishwater dull equivalent. Like, it was just the character start like our main complaint was it starts off just in medias res. The character main and again, character
first page rule, page 1 rule violated instantly.
Yeah, horrifically violated. Where they start off on a rooftop and they're fighting, and it's like, who's the bad guy? And the story just dumps it. And like the following comic, the story just dumps who the bad guy is, why they were on the rooftop, why they were fighting.
Why they needed to be fighting.
Yeah. And it's like, this doesn't mean the book sucks, but it means that I tune it out. I phase it out mentally. I'm like, okay, you've lost my interest. or rather, you at the very least you have failed to capture my interest. So I'm just like, well, whatever, I don't care. That's fine. Good luck with it. Maybe it'll take off. Maybe it'll get become a big hit. I just have no interest in it. And John Del Rose was like really put off by that. Apparently,
I
he
remember in
was depressed
particular,
about it.
we were asking like basic storytelling questions.
Yeah,
How are they up there? Why are they fighting?
yeah.
And his
Your
response to
main
that was,
characters,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah. Your main characters are here. They got here somehow. You don't have to go through how, but you have to know yourself how. And we explained this in the review. And he threw all of that out and said, well, that doesn't matter to the story. And he got really whiny about it. And I was like, well, whatever, I blew it off. He fucking. And now he's friends with Ethan Van Sciver after he was fucking like trying to jump on our bandwagon. I don't know why.
I know people have been trying to do that. People are always trying to do that to everybody, but they try to do it with us, and I just don't ever accept it.
Well,
I
the thing is
refuse
that
to accept it.
like guys like Richard are kind of trying to do it. Even Ethan, of course. Ethan did it behind the scenes where he's watching all of our videos, and that's not me guessing or speculating. Ethan, like people who know Ethan are like, yeah, he watches all of your videos, but he doesn't admit it in public. But like Richard is trying to jump on the Iconic Comics bandwagon, which we were supporting Tim and Mark before there even was an Iconic Comics. So, if there's the bandwagon, if anyone was on it before it was a bandwagon, I guess it would be us. So in a way, Richard's trying to jump on our bandwagon, but John Del Rose was like trying to sort of be with that, but he clearly didn't have any real convictions. So he would be like, "Oh yeah, this is really stupid," and then afterwards, like as we showed in that fucking video, he now acts like he never went on stream with us. He's like, oh, those guys, we wouldn't stream with that. While he was constantly sending me invites to go on his streams, and every once in a while, if I had spare time, I'd be like, okay, sure, and then we would fucking, I would carry the show. As sometimes happens. I don't always do that. But, that's why people sent us invites. Because they knew, usually it's because they didn't have anyone else to come on. And I know when we would go on with some of them, people would be like, why you guys have those guys on? They would just be pissed off at us because we weren't basically blowing smoke up anyone's ass about superhero comics. And that was one of the other things that John Del Rose was constantly like an apologist for cape shit. And he would go like buy the old omnibuses of the old shitty books, like fucking 1980s, 1970s, just Marvel detritus that they would just have. And be like, oh, this is classic. And it's like...
The story arc of when fucking Superman incinerated that woman in the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's some good 80s fucking Superman where it was just kind of insane and they just didn't even really know what the fuck to do anymore.
His eyeball is just swelling up huge. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on?
That's some other shit though, but anyways, so just skipping through this review, skipping the preamble because we had our own instead. Rescue Run by John Del Rose, this reviewer says, what John Del Rose got right. The book is a quick science fiction read and in-depth exploration of the Star Realms universe. Star Realms. Not Star Trek or Star Wars. That would be fucking... That's something else. The plot itself is logical and reasonable with almost no deus ex machina, a few twists and turns, and acceptable pacing.
Gee, spoil me, you fucks.
Almost no deus ex machina. Apparently, some creators gotta have at least some. I don't know why.
Maybe just the one.
I don't know how you have almost no. If you have even a little tiny bit, you have 100%. But I would rate the book PG based on minor violence, one minimally described character death, and truly a dash of romance as mentioned on the cover. What the author got wrong, the book could have been 50 pages shorter by cutting unnecessary and trope attempts to add tension and characterization to very cliched characters. Oof. Whew. While novelizations of TV shows, movies, and games can make writing easier for the author by completing world building and basic character outlines, allowing them to focus on adding depth to characters, politics, and background storylines, this book stays straight and narrow within the lines. The little depth added to the truly stock characters is straight out of TV tropes. Yikes-a-reno.
Yikes-a-rama.
Yikes-a-fucko. And then the framework doesn't make up for the writing. Books based off video games have a framework off of which to work because the universe, its factions, and main characters already exist. This can simplify work for the writer because the framework already exists, so the world building is done and doesn't need to be repeated for most readers. Conversely, a book based off video game or novelization of a movie may be limited by the heavy tropes built into it. Mr. Arroz's writing, not Mr. Delarose's writing, suffers from the stock tropes of the game that the game itself uses. The Trade Federation is the standard evil corporations, though some within it are not all bad. The empire that broke away from the Earth-centered Trade Federation is exploitative, but not as bad as Earth, but they don't pay their military enough and are still far from perfect. The third major human empire worships machines and technology, so they're technologically advanced but have few people. This trope is so pervasive it is even found in Dune with Ix. There's a lot to work with here, and I'm disappointed Mr. Arroz couldn't create a more compelling story given what he had. His later novel, Gravity of the Game, is much better. But then, overall, it was disappointing. Given what is essentially novelization of game, it's okay compared to similar works. As a science fiction novel is mid-grade, below the writing quality expect for an author of John Del Rosa's caliber. 3 stars.
3 stars out of fucking 10.
Of 10. 3 stars out of 100. But,
there's also a comment from the fucking person.
Yeah, it looks like they left a comment on their own thing saying this is apparently one of Mr. Rose's earlier works. I was right that he's gotten better over time.
It also is from 2017.
Yeah, so I guess maybe this review isn't from 2020. I don't fucking know. Whatever. This review is kind of a mess. The review itself is actually kind of a mess.
Yeah, the review is not very well written, and even they don't think this is a good book.
Yeah, but that some of the other things, like, for example, he did that Robotoad Wrecked Manlet that was supposed to be a satire of Ethan, who he later, of course, went on to kiss the ring of, but apparently that was just dog shit too. And so it really doesn't create an impression that his stuff either got better or that this must be really bad. This must be just like a fucking generic, utterly generic.
Well, I know one thing. I'm seeing nothing here at all that would compel me to want to read it.
Or nothing at all. I'm not really seeing anything at all, period. It's sort of like the Comicscape book where there's no characters.
It's based on a card deck building video game. And just generic as shit.
Let's not forget that fucking John Del Rose also really liked Jawbreaker's Lost Souls, which is a comic that just straight up, no joke, had no story and no characters in it. It just had a series of visuals, and that amounted to nothing.
Red flag. That's a giant red flag.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if that's the kind of comic that John Del Rose actually thinks is good, it's no wonder he can't make anything good himself. And yeah, any idea that he's improved from this book is fucking... It must have been either a horrific nadir or just he went from like a 0 to a 1. He doubled in quality by going from a 0 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10. He went from fucking 3 stars out of 100 to 5 stars out of 100. That's almost twice as many stars.
Went from fucking kill on sight to avoid.
Yes. Anyways, yeah.
Don't even approach the border.
So if we we have we do have reviews of some of his other comics, including that review of Flying Sparks, which I'm pretty sure we did re-upload just to the main channel in public. But we also have a review of one of his other comics that he made later called, not Clockwork Angels, though. It was Clockwork Dancer, and part one of that is just our review and us talking about Rush and Clockwork Angels, which is still a good album.
I mean, let's face it, what else was there to talk about in that review?
Yeah.
The comic?
Yeah, not the comic, but part two we did talk about the comic, and there might have been a part three, I don't remember, but that's an older review from sometime last year or something like that, but that's on our Subscribe-Star, so if you want to check that out, you'll go subscribe to our Subscribe-Star, and you're going to have to scroll way, way down, but that was a good review too, and we also reviewed, like, Alt Hero and some of the other Teddy Spaghetti imprint of comics too. So lots of stuff on our Subscribe-Star to check out. Aside from that, check that out. The link below in the card link or whatever in the description, and should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.